Java by PC Tutorials. It's Pravar. So now you have the basic understanding of what are properties or behaviors in a class. Today we'll learn about what are instance data members and instance member functions. Also the memory allocation of all these in detail in a program. Also we'll try to learn about how to create an object, how we can call the member functions and use data members in detail. So let's start. So now Java further divides data members as instance and static. Likewise, member functions also as instance and static. So in this tutorial, we'll learn about the instance data members and instance member function. So let's start with instance data members. So if the data members of a class are not static, by that mean if the data members are not having the static keyword, then by default they are instance data members. For instance data members, there is no specific keyword. So we'll see the example and we will understand very clearly by that. So let's take an example. So let's take an example of class employee. So employee can have different data members like name or salary. So for example, we will take string name int salary. So by default, these data members are instance data members. Okay. So we'll take some methods also. Void set. So this method will take two parameters in string s1 and int I maybe. Okay. So what this method will do is whatever arguments will come, so it will set up like in the name it will put s1 and in the salary it will put I. So whatever value will come in this s1 variable will be set up in name data member, and whatever value in the I variable will come will be put in salary data member. Okay, so it will set the data members. Let me create one more method, void show, to print out these data members. So name of employee, we can print name here. Likewise we can print salary. So this plus variable is used to concatenate the two strings. So this is one string, and whatever the value this name data member will have will concatenate with this string. Okay, likewise here also. So we have two methods, set and show, and two data members also. So for your info, these member functions are also instance member function. We will see in detail also. Now to execute the program, we will have the main function in the program, public static void main. So now we will create the object of an employee class. So this is how we will we create object in Java. So what we do is we take a variable like we took it like here, like int I. So I is of integer type. So now e is of employee type. E is just a variable of the type employee class, and this is the new operator. So new operator is used to allocate memory at runtime. So in Java, objects are always created at runtime. So that's why they are known as runtime entities. So basically you have to understand new is the operator, like plus operator, minus operator, they are doing its job. So for likewise new is the operator. So what it does is it allocates memory at runtime. That is it creates an object. Okay. So new is the operator which is creating the object of employee here. So this is the constructor we are calling. So you for now just understand like this is how we create an object. You just don't worry about the constructor thing. We will take this in further topics, further tutorials. Okay. So for now we just created an object, and to call these member functions we will use this object. So why we are using an object to call the methods, we will take this in few minutes. So we for now we'll just run the program. So e dot, you will get the list here like set method. So set, uh, we have to pass two parameters: the name of the employee, maybe Pravar, and the salary of the employee. So salary is int. So I am passing Pravar and 10,000. So what it does is it creates an object e here, right? And that employee we are setting, for that employee we are setting the name Pravar and salary 10,000. And we can also see if it's actually the if it's actually set up or not by calling this show method. Okay, so let's run this program. I forgot to mention the array type here, so let's save it and run it now. So as you can see in the console, it has printed like name of the name of the employee and the salary of the employee. So you just remember this full program. We will use it for understanding the concepts in this tutorial. And also you can create as many objects of employee in here like in the main method. Okay, so now you know how to create an object. So you have to give the different names as these are the variables. Okay, so you can set up the value. So let me give any name. Okay, so you can call show method for this employee also, right? So let's run it. So you can see the result in the console. Now we will see the different portions of the class getting memory at what time. Okay, so there are two types of memory allocation. So one is static memory allocation. So the portion of the class which is getting memory at class loading time, that can get memory only once in the life cycle of a class. So that's why it is called static memory allocation. So another is dynamic memory allocation. So the portion of the class which is getting memory at runtime, that can get memory again and again in the life cycle of a class. So this is known as dynamic memory allocation. So to understand these two definitions very clearly, you first have to understand what is class loading and what is the need of class loading. So to run your program, so your program will definitely reside under a class, right? So to run your program, technology has to load class in memory. So there are some classes like Java class loaders are there actually in the technology that loads your class into the JVM. So at that time, some portions of the class can get memory right there. So that is called the static memory allocation. So the portion of the class which is getting memory once in the life cycle of a class, that is at the class loading time, is static memory allocation. So let me give you an example from the program we wrote, right? So the set method and the show method and even the main method, so all the functions of your class will get memory only once in the life cycle of a class. Okay, so all the functions are getting memory at class loading time. So those functions get memory in which area? So that area is called the method area. Okay, so questions one question may arise here, like why functions are given memory at the loading time, right? Because functions may have thousands of lines of codes, right? And may degrade the performance if they are loaded dynamically. So whenever the class is loaded, all the functions of your class will be given memory in the method area. So now which portion of the class will get memory dynamically? So the answer is the data members of your class or the objects of your class. Why data members are not loaded statically? Though in this tutorial, the program we have taken, you might say like the compiler might have the prior information of the data members. It can go to the main function and see what value you have given for the name or the salary data members of different objects, right? But that is not in the case of the applications that are in the production for the big companies. So it will not have the prior information of the data members and its values, right? And how many objects are created. So that portion of the class will be given memory at dynamically. So now we will see what are objects and RID in Java. Then we will go back to the memory allocation part, which is pending. So object is nothing but a buffer or memory in the heap area. So whenever you create an object using new operator, as we did in the program in this tutorial, so what new operator does is allocates a memory in the heap area. Okay. So new operator is basically responsible for allocating memory for objects in Java. So only objects get memory in Java at runtime. So as in C, there was the concepts of pointers, but in Java there is no concept of pointer. So Java creates reference ID for that buffer. So that buffer is object. So we'll see the details of what is RID. So to understand the concept of RID, that is the reference ID for an object, you have to first understand what new operator is in detail. So new operator allocates memory and create RID. So it does two things. So it allocates the memory in the heap area to an object, right? And it also creates an RID for the object. So whenever you create an object like this employee emp is equals to new employee, so what new operator is doing is, so it creates an RID and returning it to the constructor. So if you don't know about the constructors yet, we will take it up in the further tutorials in detail. So don't worry about that. So just for now, you just understand it. New operator is returning the address or an RID of an object to the constructor, and then constructor will return that RID to this reference variable. Okay, so this variable, which is of type of any class, we call it as reference variable. So that RID will get stored in this variable. Okay. So RID is nothing but whenever you print this, when try to print this reference variable after creating the object, try to print this reference variable, you will get what the RID is. It prints the class name followed by the @ symbol and then the hash code of that object. So RID is basically the layering over the pointers. So Java is not directly exposing the address of the memory. It is layered by this RID concept. So as I mentioned, this is the constructor. You don't worry about this right now, but let me tell you, this is just an method of the class. So that's why this is returning RID. Okay. So that this RID will be assigned to a reference variable. So that's why constructors do not have any return type. So internally it is returning RID. That's why programmer cannot specify the return type of the constructors. We will see this again in the detail in further tutorials.